You know that moment when you finally hit what everyone told you was the magic number. You're making $80,000 a year, maybe even a bit more, and you should feel successful, right? You should feel like you've made it. But instead, you're sitting there wondering why you still feel broke, why you're still checking your bank account before making purchases, why retirement still feels like some distant fantasy that only happens to other people. Here's the thing that nobody talks about. $80,000 isn't actually a success milestone. It's a trap, a beautifully designed psychological and financial prison that keeps millions of people stuck in what I call the middle-class hamster wheel. And the scariest part is that most people don't even realize they're trapped until they've been spinning their wheels for decades. My name is Leo, and I spend way too much time analyzing income patterns, lifestyle inflation, and why people who seem successful on paper are actually financial disasters waiting to happen. If you've ever wondered why making more money doesn't automatically translate to feeling more financially secure, or why some people making less than you seem to have their financial lives completely dialed in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it changes how you think about income and wealth. Before we dive into why $80,000 is such a dangerous number, let me paint you a picture of what this trap actually looks like in real life. You probably know someone living this exact scenario. They drive a decent car, nothing flashy, but something reliable that costs them $400 a month. They live in a nice apartment, or maybe they've bought a starter home in a decent neighborhood. Their rent or mortgage eats up about $2,200 of their monthly income. They eat out regularly because they work hard and deserve it. They have a few subscriptions, a gym membership, maybe they travel once or twice a year to somewhere moderately nice. On the surface, this looks like success. This looks like the American dream in action. But here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. After taxes, that $80,000 becomes roughly $5,200 per month, depending on their state. The housing costs $2,200. The car payment, insurance, and gas add up to another $600. Food, because they're busy and successful, runs about $800 per month between groceries and restaurants. Add in utilities, phone, internet, subscriptions, and basic living expenses, and suddenly they're looking at maybe $800 left over each month. $800. That's what's left from an $80,000 salary after living what most people would consider a completely reasonable lifestyle. No designer clothes, no luxury vacations, no expensive hobbies, just basic middle-class living. And that $800 has to cover everything else. Emergency savings, retirement contributions, any unexpected expenses, any attempt at building wealth. This is why $80,000 feels like being broke with better furniture. You're making what society tells you is good money, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck. You're just doing it in a nicer apartment with a more reliable car. The stress is the same, the financial anxiety is the same, but now you have this added layer of confusion because you're supposed to feel successful. Here's where the psychology gets really twisted. When you're making $30,000 a year, you know you're struggling. Your financial limitations are obvious, and you're constantly motivated to find ways to increase your income. You're applying for better jobs, learning new skills, side hustling, doing whatever it takes to escape your current situation. But when you hit $80,000, something dangerous happens. You stop feeling the urgency to improve your situation because you think you've already made it. This is what I call the comfort trap. You're not comfortable enough to actually build wealth, but you're comfortable enough to stop fighting for more. You've reached a level where you can afford most of the things you want in the moment, but you can't afford the one thing that actually matters, which is your future financial freedom. You can buy the coffee, the streaming services, the weekend trips, the nice dinners, but you can't buy time, and you can't buy compound interest, and you can't buy the peace of mind that comes from having real money saved and invested. The $80,000 trap is particularly insidious because it comes with social validation. Your family is proud of you. Your friends think you're doing well. Society treats you like you've achieved something significant. This external validation makes it incredibly hard to recognize that you're actually in a precarious financial position. When everyone around you is telling you that you're successful, It becomes almost impossible to admit to yourself that you're still struggling. But here's what's really happening at this income level. You're making just enough money to afford a lifestyle that prevents you from building actual wealth. Every dollar that could go toward investments or savings gets absorbed by the lifestyle that your income level supposedly supports. You're trapped in a cycle where making more money doesn't translate to having more money because your expenses scale perfectly with your income. This is completely different from what happens at lower income levels. When someone making $40,000 gets a raise to $50,000, that extra $10,000 often goes directly toward improving their financial situation. They pay off debt, build an emergency fund, maybe start investing for the first time. But when someone making $80,000 gets a raise to $90,000, that extra money typically gets absorbed by lifestyle inflation. A slightly nicer apartment, a slightly better car, slightly more expensive restaurants. The problem is that lifestyle inflation happens automatically and unconsciously, while wealth building requires intentional effort and discipline. Your brain is wired to spend any extra money on immediate improvements to your quality of life. It takes conscious effort to redirect that money toward boring things like retirement accounts and investment portfolios. And when you're already living a reasonably comfortable lifestyle, it's incredibly easy to rationalize why you deserve to spend that extra money rather than save it. This creates a psychological trap that's almost impossible to escape without recognizing what's happening. The person making $80,000 often feels like they're just one raise away from financial comfort. They think that getting to $90,000 or $100,000 will finally give them the breathing room they need to start building wealth. But what actually happens is that their expenses grow to match their new income, and they find themselves in the exact same position, just with slightly nicer stuff. The really cruel part of this trap is that it gets harder to escape the longer you stay in it. When you're 25 and making $80,000, you still have time to course correct. You can make dramatic changes to your spending, live below your means, and still build substantial wealth before retirement. But when you're 35 or 45 and making $80,000, the math becomes much more challenging. You've gotten accustomed to a certain lifestyle, you might have family obligations that make it harder to cut expenses, and you have less time for compound interest to work its magic. I've seen people spend their entire careers stuck in this income range, always believing that the next promotion or job change will finally give them the financial security they're looking for. They're like hamsters running faster and faster on a wheel that's designed to keep them in exactly the same place. The wheel gets nicer as their income increases, but they never actually get anywhere. The most frustrating part is that escaping this trap isn't actually about making more money. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with money and lifestyle choices, but that requires recognizing that you're trapped in the first place, which is incredibly difficult society when keeps telling you that you're successful. The psychological component of this trap runs even deeper than most people realize. When you're making $80,000, you start identifying as someone who makes good money. This identity shift is subtle but incredibly powerful because it affects every financial decision you make going forward. You start shopping at slightly more expensive stores because that's what people with your income level do. You start eating at restaurants that cost $15 for lunch instead of $8 because you can afford it and you've earned it. These individual decisions seem completely rational in isolation. The difference between spending $8 and $15 on lunch is only $7. Over a month, that's maybe $140 extra. Nothing that's going to make or break your financial future, right? But this type of thinking is exactly what keeps people trapped. It's never just the lunch. It's the lunch plus the slightly more expensive grocery store, plus the name brand products instead of generic, plus the premium gas instead of regular, plus the upgraded phone plan, plus a dozen other micro decisions that individually seem insignificant. What's happening is that your brain is constantly making spending decisions based on your income level rather than your actual financial goals. You're not asking yourself whether spending an extra $7 on lunch moves you closer to or further from financial independence. You're asking yourself whether someone who makes $80,000 a year can afford a $15 lunch. And the answer is, obviously, yes. So you spend the money. This is completely backwards from how wealthy people think about money. Wealthy people don't make spending decisions based on what they can afford. They make spending decisions based on whether those expenses align with their long-term objectives. A millionaire might drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic not because they can't afford a BMW, but because spending $50,000 on a car doesn't help them build more wealth. But when you're making $80,000, this type of thinking feels almost offensive. You've worked hard to get to this income level. You've put in years of effort, maybe gotten additional education, probably dealt with plenty of stress and responsibility to earn this salary. The idea that you should still be driving an old car and eating packed lunches feels like punishment for success. It feels like you're being asked to live below your means indefinitely without ever getting to enjoy the fruits of your labor. This emotional response is completely understandable, but it's also what keeps people stuck. The lifestyle that feels appropriate for your income level is precisely the lifestyle that prevents you from ever moving beyond that income level's limitations. You're spending money to signal success to yourself and others, but you're actually signaling that you'll never be truly wealthy. Here's something that might blow your mind. The person making $80,000 who lives like they make $60,000 will be financially better off within 10 years than someone making $120,000 who lives like they make $120,000. The higher earner will have nicer stuff, but the disciplined earner will have actual wealth. They'll have investments generating passive income. They'll have options and flexibility that the higher earner doesn't have despite making significantly less money. This is where the trap becomes self-perpetuating. As your lifestyle expands to match your income, you become more dependent on that specific income level. You can't easily take a pay cut to pursue a passion project or start a business because you've got financial obligations that require your full salary. You can't take career risks because you need that steady paycheck to maintain your lifestyle. You become trapped not just by your spending habits, but by the financial commitments those spending habits create. The car payment locks you in for 5 years. The mortgage locks you in for 30 years. The lifestyle you've built around your $80,000 salary becomes a cage that prevents you from making the types of bold moves that could dramatically increase your earning potential or allow you to build wealth through other means. You're stuck in what feels like a safe, stable situation, but it's actually incredibly fragile because entirely it depends on maintaining your current income level. Meanwhile, someone making less money but living well below their means has incredible flexibility. They can afford to take risks, start businesses, invest in education, or pursue opportunities that might temporarily reduce their income but could lead to much greater wealth in the long run. They're not trapped by their lifestyle choices because their lifestyle choices don't require a specific income level to maintain. This flexibility advantage compounds over time in ways that most people never consider. The person who's not trapped by lifestyle inflation can take advantage of market downturns by investing more aggressively when others are scared. They can start businesses during economic uncertainty when competition is lower and opportunities are greater. They can relocate for better opportunities because they're not tied to expensive housing or lifestyle commitments in their current location. The $80,000 earner who's spending all their money on lifestyle maintenance misses all of these opportunities. They're stuck watching other people build wealth during the exact same market conditions that they're experiencing, but they can't participate because they've spent themselves into a corner. They have the income to build wealth, but they've chosen to spend that income on consumption instead. What makes this trap particularly cruel is that the people caught in it often work harder than those who are building actual wealth. They're putting in long hours, dealing with significant workplace stress, and constantly pushing for the next promotion or raise. But all of that effort gets absorbed by lifestyle inflation rather than translated into financial progress. They're working harder to afford a lifestyle that keeps them from achieving the financial freedom that would actually reduce their need to work so hard. The solution isn't to live like a monk or to never enjoy any of the money you earn. The solution is to recognize that there's a difference between spending money on things that genuinely improve your life and spending money to signal that you belong to a particular income class. Most of the expenses that trap people at this level fall into the signaling category rather than the genuine improvement category. The real breakthrough happens when you stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this purchase move me closer to financial independence or further away from it?" That shift in thinking is what separates people who escape the $80,000 trap from those who stay stuck in it for decades. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out in real life. Two people, both making $80,000 a year. Person A decides they deserve a nice car because they work hard and can afford the payments. They finance a $35,000 vehicle with a $500 monthly payment. Person B buys a reliable used car for $12,000 cash and invests that $500 monthly payment difference in index funds, earning 8% annually. After 5 years, Person A owns a depreciating asset that's worth maybe $18,000, but still has 2 years of payments remaining. Person B has a car that's still running fine and an investment account worth approximately $37,000. Same income, same 5-year period, but completely different financial trajectories. Person B didn't sacrifice their quality of life in any meaningful way, but they made one strategic decision that created a $20,000 wealth gap. This is the power of thinking beyond your current income level. Person B was thinking like someone who wanted to become wealthy, while Person A was thinking like someone who wanted to look successful at their current income level. The difference in mindset created a massive difference in outcomes. Here's what's really insidious about the $80,000 trap. It's not just that you're spending all your money. It's that you're spending it on things that actively prevent you from building wealth. That expensive apartment in the trendy neighborhood might feel like an investment in your lifestyle, but it's actually preventing you from saving for a down payment on property that could appreciate in value. The lease on the luxury car might make you feel successful, but it's preventing you from investing money that could compound over decades. Breaking free from the $80,000 trap isn't about making drastic sacrifices or living like you're still making minimum wage. It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't measured by how much you can spend, but by how much you can keep and grow. The moment you start making financial decisions based on your future goals rather than your current income level is the moment you stop being trapped by that paycheck. Your future self is counting on the choices you make today, so choose wealth over the illusion of success.